record this meeting. Okay. Okay, so thanks everybody for coming on. And today we want to talk about Harmony Email and Office, which was formerly known as CloudGuard SaaS. And it wouldn't surprise me in the least if during this session I call it CloudGuard SaaS a few times. Again, if you have any questions, I think we got a small enough group that if you have a question, you could just go ahead and ask it, or if you feel more comfortable putting it in the chat, and then I'll try to keep pace with the chat. That's fine too. So I wanted to show you a couple things today. First off, Harmony Email and Office, what's it all about? It's built to protect your SaaS platforms, specifically the Office 365 suite, not just Exchange, and also the G Suite. It will also help you with other SaaS platforms like Dropbox and Ignite and Box and a few others, Salesforce, a few others. And we're always adding to it. It's completely a cloud platform. There's no hardware or software to install locally and inside of your data center. And the best part about it is it snaps into these platforms via API. So what that affords you is that there's no redirect, right? It's not like you're sending in, you send an email, somebody sends you an email and it gets to Office 365 and then proxy to CloudGuard SaaS and then back to Office 365. There's none of that latency. This becomes a part of G Suite or Office 365 or what have you. So the key elements I wanted to go over today, and really these are the top 4 or 5 things that Email and Office does, is I want to show you a little bit about the anti-malware, a little bit about the anti-phishing. We'll talk very briefly about shadow IT since I don't have any events here. And then I also want to show you the DLP. And if we have time, we could talk very briefly about the identity and access management. So as we know, email is a major attack vector. A good vector to spread infection is SharePoint or OneDrive or Google Files, Dropbox, etc. So what we actually have here is, because we're snapped into the platform, every email comes into us, or I should say we can get it from Office 365, and we can scan, right? So we do our anti-malware thing. And I'll show you here on the screen. You can see that you have your overview with what's going on. And if you click on any of them, it brings you to the events. Go. So like here's a malware one. And it has a wealth of information of what happened, right? So if you click on the name of the email, it'll tell you all about the email. Who was it from? Who did it go to? What's the reply to? What was the headers? Aliases. Is this sender external? Is the recipient internal, right? And you can actually get the raw email. You can get the headers of the email. You could download the email to your machine. If it's not quarantined, you can go ahead and quarantine it. This one set off anti-phishing. I actually was looking for one more like an anti-malware. This one actually set off anti-phishing. So I'm actually going to back off and find you another one because I want to get the right one for what we're trying to do here. So again, right here. Here we go. So this one, again, it had a malicious attachment, right? So you can see on the right, it tells you what security tools it used to check this email, and it could show you a few things, right? Like it believes that this may be a spam email, but that wasn't enough to block it. It's possible that it's a spam mail. However, it looked at the attachment and scanned through it, and threat emulation found that it was malicious, and it actually generates a report. which if you click on it, depending on how inventive the malware was, like if it's a plain vanilla one, it just gives you kind of a vanilla report. But if it's very inventive, it gives you more information about its malware family and stuff. But this is a well-known malware. And if we click it, it's the URL spam. You know, this is it. You could also get MD5s and the other hashes, etc. Emulation to pass the other ones. So that's mostly the malware. Now to complement that, right, because that one was caught by threat emulation, we have what's called threat extraction. Now, threat extraction is whenever a .doc, .excel, .pdf, many different, like 30 something different common formats come through. What we can do is we actually take the file and we flatten it. And that's what it's showing here, is that it actually changed these attachments, and it literally takes the file, it removes any links, it removes any macros, any other active content, so that it is a simple, flat file, which is harmless because it has no active content of any kind. Now, what you'll see is that for the most part, users don't really need the active content. You know, think about how many times you've received an Excel sheet or something, and it says, you know, do you want to enable macros? And you really didn't need to. For the people that do need the macros, if it's benign, they can themselves restore the original document and get the original document themselves. If it's something where we picked up and believe it's a malicious attachment, right, which we did in these scenarios here that happened, you can still, if you truly believe that it's like a false positive or what have you, or if you just really feel like infecting one of your users for some reason, you can choose to restore the original document. So that's like the malware side of things. And I didn't see any questions in the chat. I think that's somewhat straightforward. So the next part is the phishing. And as we all know, phishing is probably the #1 vector of breach, right? That someone gets tricked into giving their credentials up and gets led to a phishing site that, you know, looks incredibly legitimate, you know, like it looks just like whatever site they're trying to access, but obviously is not the right one. Again, what you'll see here is it found, you know, phishing in the in these emails, and if you click on it, it'll tell you all sorts of detailed information. Again, the same info on the left about, you know, who's it from and where it went to. On the right, it tells you all about what the phishing picked up on, right? So this way you can make an informed decision on, you know, yes, this is phishing, or we think this may be a misclassification, which you can report. The email indicates a possible credential harvesting attack. The link was shortened, so that's one thing that throws up some concern. The link was to a low traffic site, more concern. It is insignificant. So the sender does not have a historical reputation with your domain, which is also, you know, questionable. And the machine learning inside the Harmony email and Office platform believes it is a phishing website. So all of this together caused it to quarantine this this email. And it actually also picked up on the domain itself, and so it believes that the domain is no good. So that's a way to know quickly and have confidence in, you know, that we blocked a phishing email and diagnosed it correctly. The other part that unfortunately this doesn't have any data in is shadow IT. So what is shadow IT? Shadow IT is, hang on, there might be a question real quick. So yes, so the question is, can this build a library of the ones we allow? And I'm assuming that is the actual domains. So yes, we can make um, a whitelisted list of domains that'll allow things. It actually will build one on its own, because if you noticed in the phishing, it picked up on, does this sender have like a established history with our domain? So if someone keeps sending emails um, partially, it will say, hey, this person has had history with us, and many of their emails have not been deemed malicious. And so, you know, we feel that this is a more, that part, they are a more trustworthy email address.
Hey, Joe.
Mm-hmm.
With the I know with the Exchange Online Protection, some of the Office 365 security features, they do some similar things that you're doing here. Now, would this offset that, and you can disable those features within Office 365, or do they work hand in hand?
Yep, you can do either. They can work
Okay.
hand in hand if you want the double protection. I know that at least last time I checked, the ATP was part of a higher level agreement with Microsoft, the E5, I believe, and not the E3, if I'm not mistaken. So that's also part of it, right? Is that some customers don't have access to some of that advanced protection from Microsoft.
Right. Sure. Cool. Thank you, sir.
Mm-hmm. Good question. Yeah, so Shadow IT, what is Shadow IT? Shadow IT is a bunch of platforms and tools that can be legit IT tools used by your company, or they can be things people are using on their own in an unauthorized manner. So, for example, Dropbox, right? Um, you could have a corporate-owned Dropbox account, right? But they're also, and it's very likely that people are using their own personal Dropbox account. Uh, and so this will actually pick up on Dropbox, emailing people, and it can actually block that if you wish. So if your company doesn't use Dropbox, you can actually kill emails coming from Dropbox, which means that people can't sign up for their work account, because they sign up on Dropbox.com, and Dropbox sends them an email, please click here to confirm, and they're never going to get that email. There's also anomalies, which is kind of neat. This is where the platform actually picks up on an email that or on some other thing, and this is actually a real good one, where it's not necessarily something malicious or something where, hey, we got to quarantine or prevent this thing, but it's a little funky and maybe you want to look at it. So for this one, which is actually very handy, and it works into something that we're going to go into in a little bit here. This one sees unusual activity from this user. They logged in from the UK. They don't normally log in from the UK. So this is actually a identity and access management concern. Okay. So the other thing I wanted to show you, the other two things, I guess, and I know we're drawn towards the end of the 20 minutes here. I want to keep us moving. The platform has DLP in it, which is really cool. So it has DLP, and the policy is broken out two ways, right? You have email DLP, right? What can you send to people? And it also has, for the SaaS platforms, like what can you put on SharePoint, right? Or if it's connected to Dropbox, or what have you. You see here that the rules pretty simplistic, right? This one says for outgoing emails, no credit card numbers, and it will prevent it, right? And just to show you, the list of things that we've cooked in there is pretty extensive. And you look up, and you could do a search, because that's a long list. So for example, we could do PCI, and it has a whole bunch of things around PCI. Come back. clicked away. A whole bunch of HIPAA things, social security numbers, so on and so forth. It even has different, countries, formats and stuff. So there's a lot in there that you can block right out of the box. You also can add one, right? So if you have your own strings, if you have your own strings, let's say some kind of part identifier number or serial numbers or something like that, you can actually set up and say serial numbers and looking for patterns. And then you type the pattern, which is like 1234-5, and then you're set, right? If it sees that pattern, it'll block it. So that's good stuff. And then lastly, because I want to have a little time for the Q&A, although we've kind of been talking as we go, the identity and access management. Now, this part requires you to connect it to an identity provider. Here is a list of the ones we currently work with, right? ADFS, Azure AD, Okta, G Suite, Ping, and Centrify. We do add to this list as time goes on. So that's also available. But the identity allows you to have a little bit more security and what we call zero trust, right, with your users. So for example, we saw that anomaly before where a user had signed in from a different geolocation than they normally go on. It will catch that, and that, that one's less suspicious, right? Because they signed in from the UK, and it's not their normal place, but might be legit. They may have gone on vacation or something. If it sees like they signed from New Jersey and then from the UK 2 minutes later, they know it's something's wrong there. So it flags things like that, and it'll actually control that and block that. It also has other things where you can set thresholds where if a person tries to log in and they fail, let's say 5 times, it might block them out and stuff like that. Excuse me. There's also an identity agent, which can go on the PCs. This actually enables for, it allows like single sign-on and so forth, if you don't have that available. Other than that, I don't have too much else to show you. There's more in here, but the platform is, I find that those are the 4 things people are mostly interested in, and those are really the things where email can, where these SaaS platforms can kind of burn you. I'll show you real quick. Anything that is quarantined will go in here in the quarantine folder. You can easily restore them. If your users make a request to restore them, they'll be here in the restore requests. So someone wants you to restore these, and you can go ahead and just click the approve, and it'll restore it immediately. I guess that's about it for now. Do you guys have any questions or anything jump out at you? And you could use the chat or speak them aloud, whichever works for you.
Joe, one thing I always liked about Checkpoint was the interface here. It's a ton of information. It's clean. It's easy to use. So it's same with this. It's just a lot of information here. It's just at a quick glance. It's awesome.
Exactly, and that's what I love about this overview too. Is when you log into the platform, it brings you right to this overview, and it's an easy way to see what's been going on in my environment here. How do you set it up with 365? So the question is, how does it set up with Office 365? It's actually, it probably takes about 15 minutes to get it going. And what's one thing I didn't mention here really is we have 3 different modes that it works in. It works in a detect only mode where it'll just detect things, but not actually prevent anything. We have a detect and remediate, which means it will detect and let things through. And if it decides that something is malicious, it will actually go back and pull that email out of the person's inbox. And then lastly, we have prevent, which, as you may have guessed, is, we don't let anything through until we've made a decision on it. What we do is we to actually implement it, we recommend that customers begin in that detect mode so they don't have any interruptions. And the process is fairly simple and straightforward. It gives you steps when you come in here. But all you really do is you connect with the API to Office 365. It makes you make a couple of quick changes, but they're easy to make. And then if you're doing a prevent or detect and remediate mode, you will need a quarantine email account. So you'll have to build one more mailbox that's called quarantine, and that's where all the quarantine stuff goes to live until you pull it back out. But the whole process to onboard it really doesn't take very long, probably about 10-15 minutes. And the neat thing is too, this is already attached to one, so I'd have to stop it to configure it. Oh, it's going to come up. So this is the configuration as it's done. So it's not. And then here's your email messages, right? So if something gets, for example, something gets thread extracted, this is the email you get, right? That your email will be here, and then the attachment was extracted by Sandblast thread extraction. You can click here to restore the original. Let's see if I can get this for, no. Okay, well, so when you come here, and you can actually see that, it's got these other SaaS applications here. When you come to configure it, there's a list of instructions right here because it won't be connected to anything. And you go ahead and follow them. Again, it takes 10-15 minutes. And what's neat about it is it actually will, it will go backwards, right? So unlike most technologies where once it's up, it only catches things from now and forwards, it will actually go backwards into existing emails on your Exchange server. And we'll find if there's any sort of malicious things that happen there too.
That's actually interesting that it goes back. How far back does it go?
Whatever's on there, whatever's still on the Exchange server. So if your retention policy is forever, it might take a while, but it will go back forever.
Wow. Okay.
Any other questions or comments?
I guess I'm just curious the cost, and do you also have to, if you have, we have Office 365 licenses for the users, and then we have a ton of shared mailboxes. Does it handle shared mailboxes with?
Yes. Yeah. So it's priced per mailbox.
Per mailbox. Okay.
When it comes to like a shared mailbox, it definitely can protect that, that shared address. What you can do is you actually can choose your email addresses that you're going to protect. So like I have a customer who it's a school system, and they are only protecting a certain part of the faculty, not the whole faculty. And so they actually picked and choose that, they took the list of however many users they have, and they picked the ones that they were going to apply this security to.
That's good, because some of our shared mailboxes are really just for internal archiving. So they don't really, nobody sends to them, and they don't send out. They're just a CC.
Right. It's like a repository more than a.
Right.
Yeah. Yep. Cool.
I like it. I guess we just have to get a price for it. It's to see if
Yeah,
it adds
absolutely. We
to
could do that.
our network.
We'd be happy to do that. And we could definitely talk more about this since we're going to
Okay.
be having a follow-up call anyway.
Yep.
But if there's no further questions, I'm going to go ahead and stop the recording. Stop